Oh my God. I could grab the idol and give it straight to Shay. Grab it so that everyone knows it's Shay's idol.
Hello everyone, Bandit here, and today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Survivor Australia. Despite only having 6.5 modern seasons of Survivor out, I have to give credit to the Australians. They have some good strategies. These moves were either unique and worked out successfully, or have been the most successful adaptation of a move I have ever seen play out. I'll be reviewing 5 of these moves in this video. I also have another one along the way, outlining 5 more moves, but feel free to comment on any ingenious strategies I missed. Nonetheless, let's get right into the video. At number 1, we begin with the final 9 of Champions vs Contenders. At the previous tribal, for the second time in a row now, Matt, the leader of the tribe, had taken out a member of his opposition in Sam. With an idol nobody knows about and a 6-man majority alliance consisting of himself, Sharne, Shane and Steve at the top, Brian and Monica at the bottom, and a 3-man contender minority, Matt was set to win. This was further perpetuated by the fact it seemed the 4 at the top were genuinely rock solid. They just had to survive this tribal. Benji had his own idol, had won the immunity challenge, and wanted to take out Matt, but didn't have the numbers. Fortunately, Matt wanted to target Brian this tribal, which gave Benji the perfect opportunity to flip Brian and Monica, making it 5-4. Unfortunately for him, Sharne finds another idol, the 3rd at the immunity challenge, and exposes it.
Very nicely done. Whoops. Oh, Jesus. Well, there you go. Oh, I've been looking forward to getting a hidden immunity idol all game, and then I get it and it fell out of my pants. I'm so annoyed it fell out of my pants.
Because of her idol being public, she plays it at the final 9 tribal to diminish her threat level. And of course, she plays it on the target of Benji's beautiful blind side, Matt Rogers. This immediately causes Benji to say,
No. Don't play for Matt.
No?
No, play for you. Play for you. It's gonna go to a revote.
Literally everyone is confused as why would the majority split on Sharne of all people? But Benji doesn't back down and orders her to play the idol for herself.
I think.
Yourself.
Okay.
You're getting played.
I'll play it for myself.
Sharne, so I'm clear, you're playing this for yourself?
Yes.
Yes?
Ultimately, Benji scores a 3-for-1 as he eliminates the biggest threat of the game, sends him packing with an idol in his pocket, and burns Sharne's idol. Although he was eliminated the next round, what Benji did was a complete masterclass in manipulation and proof that sometimes sheer stubbornness is all you need in Survivor. Having big cojones must be a genetic trait in Australia, because 2 seasons later, at the final 14 All-Stars tribal, Harry is about to play his advantage when AK stands up, walks over to him, and essentially tells him to knock it off because he isn't going home. Harry agrees, listens to AK, and saves the advantage, except AK was actually telling the truth to Harry, and Fleck was voted out over him. Trying to talk people out of playing idols happens on American Survivor too, such as Angelina trying to convince Nick not to play his idol at the final 7 of David vs Goliath, and Sarah telling Tony not to play the idol for her at the final 8 of Winners at War. One was unsuccessful, the other was more successful, but none reached the sheer outplay factor of Benji's ingenious move. At number 2, we have the man on the thumbnail, King Khan, who literally gave Shay an idol considered his. To set out the dynamics, Brianna and Shay are at the bottom of the tribe after the first tribal council they attended, where, because of a live idol, they got into a fight with Chrissy, who was well insulated in the majority. Brianna goes into desperation mode the next episode, even hogging the fishing gear in case an idol clue is in it, but this is all for naught, as Shay, her ally, instead finds the idol in a tree. It's pretty far up and they need extra manpower to lift the pole, and so call upon a few others, one being Khan. After dislodging the idol from the tree, Khan immediately grabs it. Just as quickly, however, he hands the idol to Shay in front of the group because it was rightfully hers. However, what Khan does here is a beautiful form of threat management. In Survivor, there's only 2 ways to manage your threat level, and that's either by being under the radar or hiding yourself behind bigger threats. By giving the minority to an idol, this means he not only establishes trust with Shay and Brianna, thus putting him in a more favourable swing position, but it also makes them bigger threats than him. Coming into this episode, we heard a lot of content talking about how Khan was a massive threat, and him leaving the game would be beneficial for various individuals' games.
What do you reckon of King Khan? Because he's got everyone wrapped around his finger. King Khan is somebody who's really competitive, makes good social connections, but you gotta keep in mind he's a threat too. Don't let him get too comfortable.
However, after he gives Shay the idol, his name is never mentioned. It's only the minority 2 and Chrissy. If Khan didn't gun for the idol, Brianna could have got it, and that's also why this move is even more ingenious. By putting himself into the idol hunt mix, Khan makes it so if he or Shay grab the idol, then Brianna is defenseless. We saw as much at the tribal council, where Shay is convinced to save the idol and Brianna is voted out without the votes even being split. It's such a subtle move, but yields massive upside and shows just how good of a strategist Khan is being on this current season of Blood vs. Water with split-second thinking. On the topic of splitting, at number 3 we have the final 5 of Survivor Australia's All-Stars, where the majority of 3 in Brooke, Sharne and Moana enact a split vote plan on David and Tarzan because David had an idol. This plan was done with 1 vote placed onto David and 2 on Tarzan, increasing the likelihood both Sharne and Moana made it to the final 4. This move is the most simple on this list, and I'll admit it isn't foolproof. After all, if David idoled Tarzan and they both voted together, then one of Sharne or Moana would still get eliminated. But that's not what happened, and this strategy is something I'm surprised isn't implemented more from a majority. Survivor is a game about maximising your odds, and this is a strategy that can help in only a few specific, but still a few, final 5 scenarios. The vote that played out was 3-1-1, with David playing the idol on himself and blocking 1 vote. Tarzan votes for Sharne with his vote, and Tarzan receiving the remaining 3 votes, thus getting eliminated. However, if Tarzan had the idol in this situation, this is an all-time fantastic move, as the majority save themselves like Devon's does in Triple H, except everyone's in on it. With Tarzan blocking his 3 votes, it's a 1-1 tie where David would have gotten eliminated on the revote. Sure, if someone flips, the plan goes out the window, but the dynamics are 2-3. If someone from the majority flips, the plan is ruined anyway, so you might as well enact a split vote plan to increase survival. There really isn't a downside. On the topic of All-Stars, we're moving on to number 4 on this list, where once again Moana is part of an Ingenious move. This takes place at the final 9 Tribal Council, where a split vote plan fails, and Zach, a member of the 6-man majority, is eliminated 4-3-2 after Jackie flips. Moana and Sharne were both in on the plan to blindside Zach, and were actually supportive of his elimination, but didn't want to get their hands dirty. They let Jackie take the fall, causing her to be the target of the next tribal, all while they pulled the strings from the shadows. But Moana wanted to let the jury know that she was part of the vote split plan, despite the voting record showing otherwise. While everyone grabs their torches and heads out, Moana hangs back pretending to tie her shoelaces. Then, when the moment is right, she gives the jury a wink, letting them know she was the mastermind behind the plan. I think the Meridian review puts it best when he says,
I do end the episode with like Moana staying behind to tie her shoes at Tribal so that she can like reveal to the jury that she was in on it. Which, to be honest, I'm surprised that more people haven't done this. I mean, I guess it is technically against the rules to communicate with the jury, but I'm sure they would let it go.
Much like what I covered with my Guide to Win challenge, if a rule isn't explicitly stated, you can dip into the grey area to find an advantage, and Moana did so. Although outright communication with the jury isn't allowed, Moana teals the line of what is acceptable and manages to get into the goodwill of those on Ponderosa while still staying aligned with David. Moves like these can really define winners, and on the topic of that, at number 5 we have Christy Bennett's final Tribal Council performance in Season 1 of the reboot. For being such an underdog with no real moves on her resume, Christy completely floors the jury with a newfound confidence, convincing arguments, and an ability to woo them over. In my opinion, this is one of the best final Tribal performances ever, and really capitalizes on the fact that in Survivor, perception is everything. If you present fabrications of the truth to individuals, they may just happily consume it if the logic is sound. We hear her talking in a fantastical way and recaps her story as if it is a legendary tale.
As a team member of Aganoa, I tried my best in every single challenge. Then when I went to the vow, I made my move. Phoebe was gunning for me. I managed to flip that around, and then she went home. It was extraordinary to see how it unfolded. At each stage, I should have been going home. My name was thrown around constantly. I have had to fight my way through 20 tribal councils.
Throughout the pitch, she complimented the jury for their big moves, but said she had to make subtle moves to survive. She also gives detail into events, such as saying that Phoebe was gunning for her on Sanapu, and that she was hell-bent on getting out Sanapu and Vivai, but never specifies why. We know Phoebe was gunning for her because she voted out Rohan instead of saving Sue, a move that would have helped Christy, and the fact the non-Aganoans go is because of Brooke, Elle, Flick, and Lee, who were in charge, and not so much because of her vow. However, Christy gives the right details while keeping a level of anonymity to her resume to avoid snookering herself, something Lee at this tribal does. Coming into this tribal, Lee should have won, considering he was with all but one of the jury members on pre-merge Vivai tribe, and was essentially the golden boy figure. However, in his opening speech, he comes off as monotone, consistently using you know and phrases during the final tribal, which devalues his pitch.
Lee, what would you like to say to the jury?
A couple of things. I wanted to make them proud as well. Yeah, that's all I really have to say about that.
Again, comparing this to Christy, who is confident and loud. The worst thing Lee does, however, is he preaches on honour and integrity, on how he played with both of those very specific aspects. Because he doesn't keep that anonymity like Christy, he is proven to be a hypocrite by Jenna Louise, and then later Nick, forcing Lee to revise his statement.
And while we were chatting, you would often tell me about your desire to play a moral game and to play with honour and integrity. And I feel like you did snooker yourself.
When I use those words, trust, loyalty and respect, I set myself up for failure. I honestly did.
You seriously did.
Christy is a prime example. You don't always need an objectively good game to win, just the perception of one. Hell, we saw just as much on Edge of Extinction when Devons became the biggest threat despite refusing to work with his old allies, consistently getting blindsided and needing immunity wins to survive to the end. Christy also finds statistics that set her apart from the others, such as saying she survived 20 tribal councils, she survived 2 whole tribes, and who in Survivor can say that, and that she always knew who was going home. Even though the last one can be argued incorrect due to her voting for the likes of Nick at Kate's boot, the fact she leads with irrefutable statistics make it more likely to believe the later exaggerations in her pitch. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like. I'd really appreciate it. Also, let me know down in the comments if you'd like me to cover Australian Survivor more, as up until this point, all content on the channel has been Survivor US based. Nonetheless, have a great day, and as always, peace!